Captain America wasn't the only hero to make the jump forward from the golden age of comics to the 1960s. Today, I want to look at the odd circumstances that brought Namor back into the current iteration of Marvel, and why a haircut from a man on fire was so monumental. But first we need to rewind just a little, so hang with me. Our story starts with a rift in the family, as Johnny pieces out from the Fantastic Four after in-house drama between him and the Thing after their defeat of the Miracle Man. The team splits up to look for the vagrant Teen Firestick. Sue gets a little fatigued and needs to stop for a sody pop, while accidentally convincing the local population that the joint's haunted. Reed rips some random teenager off of his motorbike as he drives by to ask him if he's seen the Torch, before he heads off to find another teen to torment. And of course it ends up being the Thing that is the one to find the Torch, and he's still angry. So he barrels through the wall of the mechanic shop where Johnny is working on a car with his friends and attacks him. The catch? Johnny can't use his powers to defend himself because the room is loaded with gasoline. In his rage, Ben does further damage to the shop by throwing a car through the wall, as he does. So do the Fantastic Four have any respect for other people's property? This is kind of becoming a trend. Anyways, for some brief reason, Ben briefly turns back into a human, and he has this euphoric moment that douses his rage, but it's short-lived, pretty much just long enough for Johnny to leave before Ben is once again a Thing. I wonder if it's ever going to be explained why Ben sometimes randomly just changes back. This is the third time so far. I'd just like to know if there's a deeper meaning to it, or if it's literally only done for plot convenience. So Johnny decides to stay at some kind of men's hotel or a homeless shelter. To entertain himself, he's reading a comic book from the 1940s about the Submariner, a man that could live underwater and was as strong as 10 men and, most importantly, immortal. I really like how Marvel comics are canon in their own universe. Anyways, a guy nearby sees Johnny reading his comic and talks about a bum that lives here who is just as strong as the Submariner was. A bunch of guys in the room gather to try and get the man to prove his strength, and the only way that you honestly can gauge a superhuman's power levels, by ripping phone books in half. But this man isn't interested in their games, and he refuses. His mind is lost in a fog, he can't even remember who he is. Johnny decides that in order to help the man remember himself, they have to see what he really looks like. So he does the only logical thing that a man of fire can, he flames on and burns the hair right off of his face, giving him a nice, perfect, clean cut. Because that's a thing he can do, I guess. To his surprise, the Submariner himself was under that beard, so we have an ancient superpowered being with absolutely no memory of who or what he is. But what comes next is even more wacky. Ben ends up with a literal nuclear bomb strapped to his back. So in order to try and help the Submariner remember who he is, Johnny flies him out over the ocean and just drops him in, and it pretty much works. And he stands revealed once again as the Prince of the Sea, the invincible Namor. His memories fully returned, he blasts off in search of his people, but he doesn't find what he hoped for. His homeland lays broken and destroyed. The water is radioactive, which leads him to believe that this tragedy was caused by atomic tests done by humans. I'm kind of honestly curious what happened to his homeland. I really know very little about Namor. If this was some leftover plot thread from the Golden Age, you should let me know in the comments. Anyways, Namor returns to Johnny, who is conveniently just hanging out on a dock waiting, and he tells the excited teenager that by returning the memories of Namor, he has doomed the entire human race. The Submariner will have his revenge. Johnny gathers the Fantastic Four using a signal flare, and he explains the situation. They don't have long to prepare though, as Namor uses a special horn to summon the largest living thing in the world, Giganto. We have a few pages of Giganto basically just being Godzilla, as they fire cannons at him to very little effect and begin to evacuate New York City. You know, honestly, the last thing that I expected in this comic was a kaiju battle when I started it. This issue has escalated really quickly. The Fantastic Four try to fight Giganto, but they can't really do jack to even slow him down. The answer? Strap a freaking nuke to Ben's back and get him eaten. What am I even reading at this point? So yeah, the Thing plants the bomb inside of Giganto, fights a few monsters that live inside of him, and barely escapes as the explosion propels him out of Giganto and kills the monster. And you might think this story is over. This is usually where these things end, right? But then Namor lays his eyes on Sue, and it's love at first sight. He wants her to be his queen and rule the world with him. Sue seems only a little bit hesitant about the idea. Anyways, in order to repel Namor, Torch creates a huge tornado that sucks the corpses of Giganto and Namor up inside, and the Submariner passes out from lack of oxygen as Johnny takes them out over the ocean. Johnny flies them out over the Mariana Trench and drops them there, with the horn lost in the deepest part of the sea, never to be found again. Namor once again swears his revenge, but that is a story for another day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out some of my other content. I have another great Fantastic Four video up on the screen for you now.